All right, so if it came cool here with Paul Nelson, how you doing, man?
Very good, very good. Things are going good. We're touring like crazy. Got shows in Canada, down in Florida. Just finished the Midwest with where were we? Wisconsin and Michigan. Yeah, for the new record, Badass Generation.
Now, do you do as much touring as you did with Johnny as you do out with yourself?
Actually, it's heating up. I'm actually doing about the same. Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. These next 2 months. The next 2 months are nuts. Stuff's piling up like crazy.
Yeah, I know you got a big blues festival coming up in Ontario.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's supposed to be a really cool festival. And I'm going to be there with Joe Louis Walker, whose album I just produced. I got a Grammy nomination for that, so that was cool.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So tell me a bit about the new album.
The new album. I got signed with Sony, and once that was set, Johnny had passed away like 6 months prior, whatever, and he wanted me to continue on no matter what. And I wanted to, and so I sought out musicians that I had been keeping an eye on the whole time I was touring, and I had a singer, Morten Fredheim, who I had produced in Norway, who was one of the top guys on The Voice over there, and so I flew him over. I used Chris Redden on drums from Papa Chubby, and I used Christopher Alexander from Samantha Fish on bass. And so it was a lockdown. Everybody came over to my studio, Chop Shop's studios in the East Coast, and stuff just started pouring out of me. And I had great guys to work with, and the ideas were flowing, and it was just fantastic. And the label really dug it, and so we put it out, and it's been doing really well, and now we're really touring it. So it's great to see the fans, singing along and air guitaring. So it's pretty good.
Now, tell me about the name, Badass Generation. How did you come up with that?
I'm in the studio, and somebody pulls up in a cool car, and we're sitting there listening to the tracks, and somebody says, "Oh, what a badass car!" And then all of a sudden, somebody walked in with a cool guitar, and somebody's like, "Oh, wow, badass Gibson." And then we're listening to music, and somebody goes, "Wow, that's really badass. I love that track." And I'm like, "What is it with this badass? Is this some kind of badass generation?" And I go, "Aha!" And it was one of those aha moments. I'm like, okay, what if it's this generation saying that the 70s or that generation was badass? So it's this badass generation paying homage to the whole band as a whole loves Bad Company, Free, Led Zeppelin, early Ted Nugent, Tom Petty, ZZ Top, Aerosmith, all that kind of stuff, Queen, Boston. So, we really researched all that material, and we're going for that kind of vibe. So that's the kind of album I want to put out with, and it was jam and rock and blues and all my influences. I'm sure there's a ton of Johnny influence in there as well. But, that's what came out, and the company was totally fine with it, and we were really happy. So, and like I said, it's doing really well, so I'm psyched to be touring it.
That's awesome. Now,
yeah.
That being said, with that being the Badass Generation, when you named all those bands, I mean, even this year, you see that the top tours were REO Speedwagon and Styx, Bad Company, all the classic rock bands are the biggest shows now.
See, that's the thing. Everybody was expecting me to come out with a blues album, and that would have been too easy. And, they're like, oh, he's going to do Johnny stuff, and Johnny's Johnny. He's the king at that. And I was around him enough where I can play that style and that kind of thing. But that's him. So this had to be me. But I also realized that a lot of the blues artists and blues fans, you go to like a Warren Haynes show or that kind of thing, and he's playing, he's paying homage to classic rock. And that kind of thing. He'll do like an AC/DC song in a set, or he'll do like a Zeppelin song or whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute. Everybody says they love this stuff, but there's no bands doing it. Maybe the Rival Sons or something like that. But I'm like, what happened to a front man? What happened to a classic rock? So can I do something that feels and sounds and has the vibe of a classic rock album in production, in songwriting, and vocals and soloing, So that's what I was after. And yes, that's a sign of the times now, because yes, those bands are doing great, and they're not going to be around, forever. So, this type of music is mixing in along with the blues, and I think we're at a good time in music now, where musicians are appreciated for doing a lot of stuff, they stretch, and the audience is more open to hearing different things at one specific type of blues concert or a rock concert or a jam concert. So it allows an artist to do more stuff on a recording, which is what happened with me. So.
Now, did you have a hard time trying to differentiate yourself from being, with Johnny Winter for so long? I mean, like you said, everyone expected you to do blues, and you came out with more of the classic rock feel of an album here now.
Well, no, I was trained as a session guy and a chameleon to learn how to play and put different hats on in many different musical situations. I was in rock bands, country bands, jazz bands, reggae bands, funk bands, blues bands, to work. I chose this as my career, and that's what I do. So I kind of course, when you play with somebody enough, it's like it's going to come out in your playing. Every time I pick up the guitar, if I'm playing a certain riff or this and that, I do think of Johnny, and there's some of that soaked in. But at the same time, I listen to a lot of other players, and a lot of players that he turned me on to. I took lessons from Steve Vai and Mike Stern and Steve Kahn. I went to Berkeley. So, like I said, I sat down, and this stuff just started pouring out of me. I don't know where it came from, the lyrics, the music, and it was a combination of everything I had studied, including being with Johnny. So maybe some of the feels of the grooves or the tempos, or that kind of thing came out, that you can't really notice, but they're in there.
Now,
I didn't intentionally separate myself, but I just said, whatever comes out, let's see what happens. And when you're dealing with other musicians who have different styles, who didn't play with Johnny, that helps too.
Right.
Especially if they're good.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, in a situation like this, it's a fantastic album. I mean, you truly shine here. I mean, you're a award-winning producer. You're a fantastic guitarist, and it's just amazing.
I had some good music.
It's amazing to see you shine on your own, so to speak.
And I really appreciate it, because the first thing, I don't want, I'm tired of people every time they listen to a song to get like a guitar lesson and be berated with like riff, that kind of thing. I really wanted to, that was the thing that I was getting from listening to those 70s songs. The solos were songs in themselves. They weren't just this flashy, or play all over the place. They had bits of the melody from the song. They had, they told a story. They had all kinds of starting low and working to certain high points. So I really wanted, like a good Brian May solo, or a good Angus Young solo, or a good the Jimmy Page solo, that kind of thing. Not that I'm like them, but that's I wanted to give myself that feeling and turn other people onto that. So, and it helps when you're working with a great singer.
Oh, yeah.
That's so important.
Definitely.
Because you can just play one chord and a little idea, and all of a sudden you hear the voice over it, and it just sparks creativity.
Oh, like I said, man, this album is amazing. I mean, you got every element there is 100%. I mean, from the singing to the percussion to the guitarists.
Oh, Chris can kick butt on the drums. It's insane. Yeah, his feel, his groove. He's tight. The timing is great, but it's still got a great feel and a groove. It's not lost. It's a nice blend of technicality and loose feel. so it's not too mechanical. So, and all the songs were put in a certain order too, to listen to the whole thing as a whole. You know, the key changes and the different instrumentation. So a lot of time was put into that. So I really do appreciate that you.
You know that you mentioned that. I truly did notice that. Like when I listened to it start from the finish, it felt like it was connected all the way through.
Totally, because that's the thing that I was getting from those Zeppelin albums and listening to these Top albums. Sure, the songs are great within themselves, but there's a reason why track 1 went to track 2. I mean, I think those albums in the 70s were created for driving a car.
Right, yeah, definitely.
Or putting it on at a backyard party. You know, just something, okay, hey, yeah, put that in, because that'll be good for an hour and a half, you know? Then I don't have to put another one in. Yeah, I'll put in, Zeppelin 3 or something. Yeah. the whole album, and that's what I wanted, because I had heard people say, with certain albums, like a good Boston album, wow, I put it in, I forgot it started all over again. I listened to it twice, So there's something to be said for that. I mean, people are going to buy individual tracks, and that's cool or whatever. But it's not like The Wall where there's a story mingled in there. But there's the tempos. It's set up like a concert.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely hear the connection from track to track. I mean, and it's quite refreshing too. I mean, I'm so used to bands these days worrying about one or two singles and then throwing a bunch of shit all together just for...
Yeah, no, there was no filler. That was my big thing. No filler. Yeah, each song had to have a hook, send a message, sound good, show the musicianship, but at the same time don't lose a regular listener that just wants to hear, good music and doesn't care about the... who's a shredder and who's this and that. So yeah.
Now let me talk
again. Back to the vocals. That's key.
Now let me talk about the live performance. I mean, with an album like this, where literally every song is fantastic from start to finish. I mean, how do you go about putting your set together?
I play it front to back. Yeah, because if they're getting used to it, that people memorize stuff. They'll memorize a mistake if there's a mistake. So yeah, I just hit them with front to back, and then if there's any covers or any songs that the band likes to do or jam or, that kind of thing, we stick those in, We'll put in some classic blues tunes or some rock tunes in between, just to show our wares. But, yeah, I want to, and it's a great feeling, too, to go out on the road, and you're playing a venue, and that half the people haven't heard the CD yet. And they have no idea of the songs. They heard a little bit about who you play with, whatever. But now it's like, okay, let's see what you got. And the feeling of playing the song, and then all of a sudden you play the chorus, and you see people trying to mouth or sing along with it, but they haven't heard it before. But they know that in every song there's another chorus. So by the second chorus, they're singing along. I'm like, oh, man, this is great. They're getting it. They want to join in. And when somebody wants to join in, then you've written something that matters. And that's the great feeling of playing live. If anybody wants to know, what's the high you get, it's when people are relating to what you've written, and it sounds familiar, and it sounds like something they want to sing along, and it sounds like something they want to have as part of their collection. So...
That's awesome.
That's what it's like to play live, if anybody wants to know. That's what keeps all these musicians going.
Now, how are you adjusting your band members to your tour regimen? I mean, you're used to playing hundreds of shows a year, and now, like you said, you're starting to get these guys going to do tons of shows as well.
I warned them in the beginning. I go, look, I'm a lifer. We're going to do this. We're going on the road. That's one of the things. I mean, they have to be great, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to choose from that pool, but it's like, we're going out, we're doing this. And so then, all the powers that be, the agencies are all notified, and then the gigs start coming in, and then you just connect the dots. My goal, as was the goal with working with Johnny, was to, play every state, every country. It's like a presidential campaign. You're out there going to the people and getting the music to to them, and doing interviews like this and radio and just playing in the venues. And that's how it is with every release. And that's why all these things matter. The record labels matter, the booking agencies, the promotion, the publicists, the interviewers. There's a reason why all this stuff is held true, and you have to follow every rung of the ladder, and this is part of it. So yes, I find musicians that are road dogs, seasoned pros that just, okay, let's go down. I mean, we're heading down to the Florida Keys in November. Don't think I have been watching that closely, worrying about the people down there and is there going to be a venue.
Right.
So, and maybe we'll go down there and make some people happy, and they'll forget their troubles for a little bit. So that's another way that musicians and music helps.
Yeah, you go to a show, and it's the one of the few times in life where you can go ahead and just forget about anything you got going on and just lose yourself for a couple hours. And the
thing is, the audience, the fans, are going to know what they're getting the minute the first chord, the first bam, the first guitar sound, and that's I start off with Down Home Boogie a lot. And it's like da-da-da, da-da-da, and they're like, okay, they can handle this. This is going to be rocked out. It'll be bluesy. All the elements in it. That's why I usually start off with that song first, because it's got slide in it. It's got regular guitar. It's got a ZZ Top kind of groove. It's got heaviness. And I'm like, well, if they can take this, then they can take everything else we're going to dish out after that. And if they dig this song, that's it. I mean, even you and, when you listen to something, it's like you listen to the beginning of this track, the beginning of this, and if it doesn't suck you in to continue further, if you start skipping tracks, there's something wrong. You're looking for, I hope this will be better. That's why every track is important.
Well, like I said before, man, it's a breath of fresh air. I mean, it's finally a chance where you put something in, and like you said, go for a cruise and just lose yourself and not worrying about having a...
Yeah, for people to lose themselves, because I did that in the studio. Eventually I had to say, okay, it's done. And that's the hardest thing, to be a guitarist and a producer. It's like, you want to fine tune everything, but it comes a point where you go, you know what? Stop. That's it. And then you realize it's forever.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And that's it. So you just go, cross your fingers. Let's see if they dig it as much as I do. But you really have to have insight as to, you have to look at it as a musician who's creating it. Then you have to think, all right, am I a fan of this? You have to go back out and come back in the room and go, all right, I don't know if I didn't know music, or and I was just listening to this, does this cut it? And that's when you're making it for the listener. You got to leave that room and come back with fresh ears. So that's how I work.
Now, you also have the DVD release of Down and Dirty came out recently too, correct?
Right, that was a movie. I found Greg Oliver, who had done the Lemmy documentary, Motorhead, and I got turned on to that, and I said, "Wow, this may not be Johnny's style of music." And I love Motorhead. I'm from a heavy rock past.
Right.
But I looked at the editing, I looked at the interviewing skills, I looked at everything. I go, "Wow, if this was about Johnny and he was in Lemmy's position and with the up closeness of this kind of style, so I got to get in touch with it." So I got in touch with Greg Oliver, the director, and I said, "Look, I want you to do the thing." He goes, "Oh, I was thinking about it too. It's glad we met." I go, "Well, here's the deal. I want you to come on the road with us and he came on the road with us for 3 years. Followed Johnny and I when we played Japan and China, and when he and I did the Letterman show and Kimmel, and went over to Europe and interviewed Edgar and Billy Gibbons and Joe Perry, Warren Haynes, Susan, well, everybody. And what came out was a documentation of Johnny's comeback, getting clean, his lineage, blues rock history, an elderly statesman of the blues, what happens to the older icons, that kind of thing. And it came out really well. There's like 3 or 4 stories going on at once, and they all come to a head at the end. So it's and at a time when people are dealing with the the drug addiction. You know, to hear words of Johnny saying, you know, the only thing he would have changed was his drug addiction. There's some really important points made with this movie.
Now, I've spoken to you several times. I remember one of the first times I met Johnny, you told me a story how you guys met, and it's amazing the fact that you literally saved Johnny's life and rebuilt his career. I mean, by helping him get off the drugs and pushing him through and totally changing him around.
Yeah, it kind of, you know, first I went in, I was his guitar player. I was proud of that. That's all I wanted to do. Play with Johnny Winter. It's like, you know, playing with Hendrix or playing with Beebe or Buddy Guy. I mean, you know, blues has a habit of passing the torch, and I was his guy for, you know, the next guy. But then a very close relationship started, not just on a musical level, but just as two buddies. He was like a father to me, you know, that kind of thing. And now all of a sudden, you know, people get close. It's like a family, and all of a sudden, your family member is something's wrong. And it was management, and you know, Johnny made Ozzy Osbourne look like he had training wheels. Seriously,
right?
I look at some of that stuff. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's nothing compared. Johnny, yeah, amazing. But I knew something had to be fixed. So once that trust was established, you know, he asked me, he says, "Can you help me out?" And I'm like, "Are you sure you want me to do it?" He goes, "Yes, yeah." So I stepped in and I got him off of everything, and he enjoyed a lot of years, you know, sober and getting awards and getting his just rewards, you know. And that was important to me because he was one of my idols.
Right.
You know, as a guitar player, God. I mean, I've heard recordings where he makes Hendrix look like, you know, a kid. It's amazing. The talent. Johnny was the best slide player, the best regular player, and one of the best rock singers.
Oh, yeah, he was fantastic.
He had all three things. You know, Hendrix had two, playing and singing. Clapton had two. But Johnny, holy, and everybody knew that. But what happened? And the movie kind of explains that. And the comeback really helped him out. He had never won a Grammy for his own material. So I was honored to be able to do that with him. We both got Grammys for that Step Back album. That was huge. And he heard all those recordings. You know, and he said, if you and I don't get a Grammy for this, they're nuts. And he did. So that was pretty cool.
Now, after you're done with this tour and you start on to do more things, do you ever think about doing something along the lines of the Hendrix experience for Johnny?
I've been doing that. I've been doing the Johnny Winter All-Star thing with. I did it with Warren Haynes. I just played a huge concert in Long Island with Government Mule. It was myself, Warren Haynes, and G Love. We did Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. Then we go out as the Johnny Winter All-Star Band. And I have musicians from his past play, and then guests. We've had Sonny Landreth, Ronnie Baker Brooks, who else? Papa Chubby, a whole slew of artists. Was it Earl Slick, Edgar Winter, a whole bunch of guys sit in. So I'm continuing that, and then there's talk about a Johnny Winter Foundation as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which would be huge. So we're working on that now.
You would
and
never...
there's enough recordings of Johnny's live material to put out 2 albums every year for the next 20 years.
Oh, that'd be great, man. Definitely
yeah, well,
would.
the bootleg series that's out is already on number 13, so, and there's more coming.
Now, you would never go the Dio route, would you?
What do you mean?
With the hologram.
Oh, well, you know, it's funny you say that. The Step Back album, we were in the process of contacting the White Stripes down at his record label.
Okay.
And Jack White, and he had just been working with albums that shot up a hologram when it spun.
Really?
So we were seriously thinking of using that process. Yeah, when the album spins at a certain RPM, it creates a hologram that pops up out of the center spindle. and we were thinking of having a Firebird spin around. You know, he had that vinyl that was made out of honey. He had there was water in the center. He had vinyl where the label in the center, the paper part, actually had a hidden track on it. So you would put the needle on the paper in the middle. And then he had albums where you put the needle in the middle of the album and it plays backwards, it plays a song normally, but it goes to the outer edge of the vinyl rather than going from the outer edge inward.
Right.
So we were thinking of a hologram. Now, as far as I've had people say, hey, why don't you do a thing where, Johnny's playing in the back and you play with him? There's all kinds of possibilities. I've heard of that, where they have an image of him while the whole band's playing, so we'll see.
Cool.
But I want to follow things along the lines of what people of the Hendrix estate has done for that kind of thing. I mean, these are icons, and we lost so many. You have to keep it going. The Stevie Ray Vaughan estate, the Hendrix estate, B.B. King. That whole band's out now as the B.B. King All Stars.
Right.
The bands that were playing with these artists are very important too. They're the ones that lit the fire under the artist. There's a reason why you hired these guys. So, it's important.
Now, people want to follow more about you. They want to contact you. They want to see the tour dates. They want to order the album. What's the best?
PaulNelsonGuitar.com. Yep, and just Google. I'm on all the socials. Every
Do you how do you handle your social media? Do you like it? Is it like for someone who's busy?
It's an integral part. You have to have it. It's you have people. You need it. You have to be up to date with everything and get ready for every change. So it's a necessary tool, and everything that comes out, you have to be part of as well. There's a lot of time and patience involved with the people that work for you and what you do, but it works. Everything from EPKs to lyric videos, it's all part and parcel because it goes and people memorize this, remember this stuff. So if you say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it, I don't need it," you're losing a lot of your fan base because everybody else is doing it, and you got to put out good stuff.
Is it hard to balance though for someone who's on the road as much as you and has so many different things going on?
Everybody says, "How do you find time?" You're on a bus for 14 hours. Trust me, there's enough time.
All right, Paul. I appreciate your time, man, and I love the album once again.
No, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Play it, enjoy it, and I'll see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.
Bye.